The 2021 Blue Collar Football League season is winding down, and this week we find out one of the two teams that will play for the BCFL championship. The Eastern Conference Finals features the Columbus Gladiators traveling to face the Port City Spartans. The Spartans won the Eastern Conference's Red Division with a 10-0 record, while the Glads dropped their last two regular season games to finish at 7-2, just behind the Spartans. The Glads won on the road last week against the West Virginia Storm 20-0, while the Spartans held off the Tuscarawas County Warriors 14-12. Due to a scheduling quirk, the two teams did not meet in the regular season, but now they will be playing to decide the Eastern Conference champion. The Spartans were enjoying a magical season, but things did not start out well for them. Joey Reinhardt's opening kickoff deflected off a player on the front line, and Andre Bryant was there to fall on it for the Gladiators. On the first play from scrimmage, quarterback Ben Kershaw dropped back deep. He found Calvin Dawson deep, and after throwing for just 43 yards against the Storm, the Glads had scored on a 59-yard touchdown on the opening play of the game. With starting quarterback Duke Edwards injured last week, the Spartans turned to Trey Craycraft, and he hit LJ Adams for an 18-yard pass on 3rd and 11. But later, facing a 4th and 5, Craycraft's pass for Markel Kane was knocked down by Jeremy Williams, and the Gladiators took over on downs. This time the Gladiators moved the ball more methodically. Michael Haynes took a handoff and worked around the right side for 9 yards. Later, Kershaw hit Brandon Bruner with a short pass, and he worked his way to the middle of the field, picking up 21 yards into Spartan territory. And then it was back to Haynes. He worked the left side this time. He picks up 18 yards down to the 21. The Port City defense finally found its footing, and on 4th down, Kershaw went deep, but it was Darian Robinson there to pick it off in the end zone, keeping the score 6-0 Gladiators. The Spartans were unable to move the ball, and when their punter dropped the snap, Bradley Booker was there to tackle him at the 5-yard line. Columbus struggled to punch it in, but on 4th down, Kershaw was looking to pass, saw an opening though, and decided to run in for a 2-yard touchdown. Then on the 2-point conversion, again looking to pass, this time he flipped it to Adrian Barrett in the end zone. It was good to give the Gladiators a 14-0 lead after one quarter. Port City answered with its longest play of the game. Craycraft scrambled before firing a deep pass, and LJ Adams was able to pull it in for a 38-yard gain down to the 27. But on 4th down, Craycraft's screen pass fell incomplete, and the Gladiators got the ball back. Columbus turned to its ground game to pick up 40 yards in just 3 runs. First was Haynes, who worked his way ahead along the right side for 10 yards. Then Haynes took a pitch and burst forward for 17 yards into Spartan territory. And finally, Reynard Ballard went around the right side. He was dragging tacklers for a 13-yard pickup. But the drive stalled there as Kershaw's 4th down pass sailed over Dawson's head, giving possession back to the Spartans. Port City worked on getting some points before halftime. On 3rd and 10, Craycraft hit Jermaine Payton for an 11-yard pickup. Then it was Craycraft finding Markel Kane. He worked his way back in for 8 yards. Then Kane took a handoff, picked up 8 more yards in the Gladiators' territory. But 2 plays later, with Craycraft looking deep, instead it was Bradley Booker there to pick off the pass just before the 2-minute warning. This time Kershaw faked the handoff, and once again, all alone, Calvin Dawson hauled it in. He's going to flip into the end zone for a 70-yard touchdown, putting the Gladiators ahead 20-0. On the Spartans' final drive of the half, Craycraft found Darian Robinson over the middle. He picked up 23 yards, but 3 incomplete passes later on meant the Gladiators held on to their 20-0 lead at halftime. After Haynes returned the opening kickoff of the second half 33 yards into Spartan territory, Jeremy Williams took a pitch, and he picked up 15 yards down to the Spartans' 15. But then Natrell Cunningham cut down Williams for a 7-yard loss, and later Cunningham sacked Kershaw in the backfield, helping bring an end to the drive. On 3rd and 10, Craycraft hit Markel Kane. He worked his way ahead 24 yards to the 50-yard line. But once again, the Spartans were able to move the ball any further, and they punted to the Glads. On 2nd down, Haynes took a handoff. He worked ahead 15 yards out to the Spartans' 33. On the next play, Haynes took another handoff. This time he worked his way ahead for 11 yards before finally being brought down with another Gladiators first down. Columbus punted, and with the Spartans still trailing 20-0, they gambled on 4th and 5. Craycraft's deep pass just out of the reach of Jermaine Payton, and the Gladiators have great field position. On the next play, Haynes burst ahead. He picked up 18 yards down to the 12. And after a penalty moved the Gladiators back, Kershaw faked right, looked left, found Haynes open with plenty of blockers, just one man to beat. He walks his way into the end zone for a 25-yard touchdown. The 2-point conversion that follows puts the Gladiators up 28-0. The Spartans keep fighting, and on the final play of the third quarter, Craycraft moves forward and then hits Kane. He picks up 29 yards down to the Gladiators' 33-yard line. On 4th down, Craycraft looks over the middle. He finds Darian Robinson for 26 yards down to the 6-yard line. But on the next play, looking for the end zone, instead it's Bradley Booker juggling and intercepting the pass. He gets up and returns it out to the 30-yard line. On the next play, Columbus turns to Haynes again. He works along the right side. Looks like he stopped, and then he breaks out of it, picks up another 10 yards, a 28-yard pickup in all. Port City did get the ball back for one last chance to get some points on the board, but once again on this deep pass, Bradley Booker was there to pick it off. He drops off his 3rd interception of the game. The Gladiators are able to run out the final 6 minutes, taking one last knee before celebrating their 2nd trip to the Blue Collar Football League championship game, this time with a 20-0 win against the Port City Spartans. The shutout was the 2nd straight for the Gladiators in the playoffs after recording just one shutout during the regular season. Jeremy Williams led the defense with 5 tackles and 4 pass breakups, while Booker had the 3 interceptions. On offense, Ben Kershaw completed 11 of 20 passes for 229 yards and accounted for all 4 touchdowns, 3 passing and 1 rushing. Calvin Dawson caught 2 passes for 129 yards, with both receptions going for touchdowns. Michael Haynes added 131 yards on just 10 carries and had a receiving touchdown. In all, the Gladiators picked up 196 yards on the ground to just 28 for the Spartans. For Port City, Markel Kane had 5 catches for 69 yards and 4 rushes for 13 yards. LJ Adams also had 5 catches for 68 yards, as Craycraft with 13 of 36 passing for 183 yards. Neutrell Cunningham led the defense with 10 tackles, 4 of them for a loss, with 2 sacks. Meanwhile, in the West, the Cincinnati Dukes hosted the Columbus War Eagles to decide who would play the Sin City Buccaneers in the Western Conference Championship game next week. Neither team picked up a first down on their opening possession of the game, but on the Dukes' second possession, Monty Murray fired this 18-yard pass inside the 10-yard line. That set up Brett Robinson for this run up the middle, 8 yards, and a Dukes touchdown. This 11-yard pass and a penalty on the play moved the War Eagles to midfield. But on the next play, Howard Tidwell forced a fumble, and Patrick Lett was there to recover for the Dukes. And Cincinnati took advantage with a 10-yard touchdown pass to Justin Cornwall. On the Dukes' next possession, Murray lofted a 30-yard strike to Kovion Spikes into War Eagles territory. Then it was Brett Robinson bursting ahead for 14 yards. And finally, Murray connected for Tay White on a 27-yard touchdown. The 2-point conversion put the Dukes ahead 20-0. The Dukes added to their lead just before halftime with this 12-yard touchdown pass to Cornwall. Trailing 28-0, Columbus did manage to get some momentum going on the opening kickoff of the second half. Breaking out of the tackle, they pick up 37 yards into Duke's territory. The 26-yard pass got them inside the red zone, but when the War Eagles looked to cash it in, instead the Dukes were there to pick it off. After the team trade turnovers, Murray fires a strike that Cornwall hauls in for his third touchdown, making it 34-0 Dukes. The War Eagles managed to break through late in the third quarter as they connect for a 39-yard touchdown. In the fourth quarter, Murray and Cornwall hook up one more time, their fourth touchdown connection of the game, putting the Dukes up 40-6. An interception by Anthony Metcalf later in the quarter essentially brings things to an end as the Dukes just have to kneel out 3 times to secure their 40-6 victory. The Dukes took control of the game with a 22-point second quarter, moving on to face the Buccaneers in the Western Conference Championship game. Murray completed 23 of 39 passes for 282 yards and 5 touchdowns. 4 of those went to Justin Cornwall, who had 7 catches for 82 yards. The other touchdown went to Tay White. The War Eagles had 2 sacks and forced 5 fumbles, recovering 1 on defense. That leaves just one game to be played this week. As mentioned, the Dukes will be hosting the Cincinnati Buccaneers in the Western Conference Championship game, with the Gladiators awaiting the winner in the BCFL Championship game on September 11th. The two teams split the season series this year, with the Dukes winning 12-6 in the opening week of the BCFL season, while the Buccaneers won 18-12 in overtime on June 12th. The Buccaneers have not lost since opening the season 0-3. And finally, a look at the playoff brackets. In the East, the bracket is complete with the Gladiators, the number 3 seed, advancing with wins over the Rhinos, the 6th seed, then upsets of the 2nd-seeded Storm and the 1st-seeded Spartans on the road to advance to the BCFL Championship game. In the West, all the seeds have held so far, with the top-seeded Dukes hosting the 2nd-seeded Buccaneers in this weekend's Western Conference Championship game, with again the winner facing the Gladiators in the BCFL Championship game on September 11th.